we have for our next guest the co-host of the TV series, The Way of the Master, and a dear friend of this ministry, and he'll be a dear friend of yours as you get a chance to meet this incredible friend of ours, Ray Comfort.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, Chuck.
Let's get a picture. And you can be handing me this in the picture. A donor at work.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
God bless you. There's an ugly rumor going around that I've been preaching prosperity. I don't know where it began, but I want it to stop, okay? People keep asking me why my Bible's so big. It's actually one of those loose leaf Bibles, we can take the pages out, and it's large print. Let me show you Genesis chapter 1. Let me just check this out. There seems to be something wrong with the wire here. Ah! Just kidding. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So let's just close in prayer, shall we? Could you open your Bibles at Psalm 51? Keep your finger in that, and then go to 2 Timothy chapter 2, if you would. Once you get to 2 Timothy chapter 2, go down to verse 3 and put your finger there and then turn to Mark 4, verse 2. I'm just making all this up because there's so many people out there that haven't come in. We should have taken up a collection and taught them a lesson. So they're still coming in. While they're coming in, let me tell you, this is actually my pocket Bible. I left the big one at home so you wouldn't feel intimidated. Always keep your ID in your Bible. Still coming in. It's like an altar call. Okay, Psalm 51, before we read God's word, I recently went to have a checkup at my doctor's, and I hadn't met this doctor before, so I always feel sorry for doctors because they've got a kind of a depressing life. Anyone that comes to them comes with a complaint. I don't know if you realize that. So you've got to have some compassion on doctors when you go to visit them. And so this doctor began looking in my left ear, and he had this little sort of brass device with a light on it, and he must have spent probably 40 seconds, 50 seconds staring in my left ear. I think it was a brain searcher or something. Anyway, I thought, what is he looking for? After about 50 seconds, he stood in front of me with a very sober look on his face, and he said, I want you to grab the earlobe and pull it down firmly. So I did. I reached out, grabbed his earlobe, and pulled it down firmly. It's the same doctor. The next visit, I put a plastic cockroach on my stomach when he was checking things out, and it made him jump. This is the same cockroach I used on my dentist. It's a great thing to do. When the dentist comes around and says, open up, just put, payback time. So may God open our ears today and we hear clearly what he wants to say to us. Some time ago, I took a shoulder camera to the streets, and when I met a Christian, I'd say, do you think that God is angry at America? And the usual answer from Christians was this: no. God's not angry at America. We're the good guys. So I said, well, let me ask you a few questions. I'm going to use the 10 Commandments in reference to modern statistics and then get your thoughts in a few moments. Sixth commandment, you shall not murder. I said, you realize in the 1990s, between 1990 and the year 2000, in our country, United States of America, there were 200,000 people murdered in one 10-year period. Since Roe v. Wade, 50 million Americans have been killed through abortion. Seventh commandment, sexual sin. 50 to 60% of married couples admit to adultery. Premarital sex is practiced by more than 75% of women and 80% of men by the age of 19. 45 million people are infected with a virus that causes genital herpes. 33% of all births are out of wedlock. 1 in 4 teenage girls has a sexually transmitted disease. And Americans spend up to $13 billion each year on pornography. Eighth commandment, theft costs the country $500 billion each year, and we have 2,319,000 people in prison. No other nation has that many people incarcerated. Ninth commandment, shall not bear false witness. 91% of Americans admit to lying regularly. And 10th commandment, $50 billion each year is spent in gambling venues. And these same Christians would say, after hearing that, God is angry at America. That law, the 10 Commandments, the moral law, brings the knowledge of sin not only to an individual, but to a nation. Remember Paul said, I had not known sin but by the law, book of Romans. That law brings the knowledge of sin. It tells us what sin is. I had not known sin but by the law. John Bunyan said, the man who does not know the nature of the law cannot know the nature of sin. Why? 1 John 3:4 tells us sin is transgression of the law. Think of King David. He had violated the 10 Commandments. He coveted his neighbor's wife. He lived a lie. He stole his neighbor's wife. He committed adultery. He committed murder. He dishonored his parents and thus dishonored God. The world would say, oh, David was a victim of his own moral weaknesses. But in truth, he was a covetous man who was a devious liar, a thief, an adulterer, a murderer, who dishonored his parents and caused the name of the Lord to be blasphemed by the enemies of the God who had so lavished his goodness upon him. But it seems David wasn't too concerned about his own sin. It was no big deal. So Nathan was commissioned by God to reprove and rebuke the king. So what did Nathan do? Did he come in and say, God has a wonderful plan for your life? No. What has that got to do with anything? David was a criminal who had sinned against God and he needed to be reproved. So what did Nathan do? He was faithful to his commission. He came in and told David a story about a little lamb, and David, being the shepherd of Israel, understood that. He related to it. And then he became self-righteous, and he says, that man will restore fourfold, and he will die. And then Nathan said, you are the man. Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord? And then David cried out, I've sinned against God. And once David acknowledged his sins, then came the gospel. Then came the good news. Nevertheless, you shall not die, for God has put away your sin. Now let's look at Psalm 51 and see how the law showed David the seriousness of sin and showed him that he had sinned against God, and it made sin personal to him. You are the man. Look at his words, Psalm 51. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out